So there are two more parts to the behavioral phenotype that I developed. The next to the last one says that under conditions of stress and sensory overload, they find it difficult to self-regulate and easily lose behavioral control. We certainly have seen in charge children losing behavioral control. You know, sometimes it's described as a meltdown where they just can't keep themselves functioning properly at that moment and kind of lose it. And this is typically due to stress that they're experiencing, as well as their sensory systems just getting overloaded, which seems a little bit ironic considering that their sensory systems aren't always very well developed. But that's part of the problem because when stuff gets into the visual or the auditory or other kinds of senses, it can be overwhelming for the child because they're not used to that. And all day long, they're probably trying very hard to hear and see and smell, etc., different kinds of things. And it can get to be too much. And at that moment, then they kind of fall apart. The last one on the list is difficulty with shifting attention and transitioning to new activities, easily lost in their own thoughts. And I noticed this one of my early consultations with a boy who they were trying to get him transition from doing a worksheet to working one-on-one with a teacher, and they could not get him to stop doing the worksheet. And then when consulting with another case, they said, yeah, we have to kind of give her a 5-minute, 4-minute, 2-minute countdown for her to be able to transition successfully. The ability to transition is one of those things that's related to executive functions. And it's one of those things that our prefrontal cortex kind of directs for us in terms of where am I looking, what am I attending to, what am I in the process of completing. And sometimes the kids with charge get kind of caught where they can't move on from what they're currently doing until they feel like it's finished, or they know that there's a timeline they have to follow. Some places use a hourglass, shift over the sand so that kid can tell visually how much time they have left to do whatever they're doing. So often the kids do seem kind of lost in their own thoughts, and it's easy to become isolated in social settings because when you can't hear well and can't see well, you can kind of turn those off. I have a hearing impairment, have hearing aids, but I'm in a restaurant with lots of people. Sometimes I just kind of tune out because it's too hard to pay attention to all the different conversations with all the background noises going on. So getting the kids to shift their attention, to transition, and to come out of their shell where they're operating is something that can be very difficult. So that's another part of the behavioral phenotype. And so those are all the areas of the behavioral phenotype that I've worked out for charge syndrome.